Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to today's Wild Rift video. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a look at the Void Walker Kassadin. In the early game, Kassadin is one of the weakest champions in the game with his lack of damage and lane priority. This is until he reaches level 5 and has access to his ultimate Rift Walk. Rift Walk allows Kassadin to roam and make an impact on the rest of the map. Stacking Rift Walk before a fight will give him more damage, however it will cost more mana, so you do need to be very careful. Taking a look at the build with Kassadin, Kassadin focuses mainly on a lot of ability power. He does a lot of damage with his abilities, and also he focuses on building as much mana as possible. Because we're going to be stacking our Rift Walk and because it's going to be costing more mana every single time, we need to make sure we have enough mana in our kit to be able to stack up Rift Walk and deal as much damage as possible when we scale into the late game. One of the first items you want to build is Rod of Ages. You want to build this before your boots as well, because you get the veteran passes. So each stack provides 20 health, 10 mana, and a little bit of extra ability power, and it stacks at rate of 1 every 45 seconds. So making sure that you get Rod of Ages as a first item so it starts stacking as soon as possible is very important, so you get to them 10 stacks as soon as possible to get a little bit of extra health, mana, and also ability power. Then you got your boots, which is the Boots of Mana. Again, another strong item that you can go for. A lot of ability power. The mana regeneration will help Kassadin out a lot as well, and also a bit of movement speed with the boots. For the boots upgrade, you always want to go for stasis. This is your best boots upgrade option, because when you're jumping in with Rift Walk, you can use stasis, and this will give Kassadin enough time when you're invulnerable during stasis for then Rift Walk to come back up, so you can jump away to safety or even jump back in again to do even more damage. Then again, another really strong mana item and another scaling item as well, Archangel Staff, an item that still gives you quite a bit of ability power, the magic penetration, but the big thing is you get a lot of maximum mana from not only the item, from the base stats, but also from the passive as well. So you'll be able to increase your maximum mana by 15 every single time mana is spent, and it goes up to a maximum of 700 stacks. When you reach that 700 stacks, the item gets upgraded into Seraph's Embrace, and Seraph's Embrace, when you drop low on HP, it will give you a huge massive shield. So not only is this really good for Kassadin because you get so much mana in your kit, but also you'll be able to get that little bit of a shield when you drop low on HP, which for a melee champion, for a champion like Kassadin that likes to jump into a fight, is going to be very important. Then after these two core items with the mana that is involved, then we just want to go for as much ability power as possible, because at this point of the game we have enough mana and we just need more damage to be a late game scaling champion. Rabadon's Death Cap, a lot of ability power, and also increasing our overall ability power by 20 to 45% based on level. Infinity Orb to be able to let our abilities and empowered attacks critically strike for 20% bonus damage when enemies are low on health, and again, another item that gives you a lot of ability power and also some magic penetration. And then for our final item, we can go for a more defensive item. I call Crown the Shattered Queen more of a defensive item, even though it does still give you a lot of damage overall. That Safeguard passive, granting you a spell shield, will be really nice and give you a bit of safety when you're jumping in with Rift Walk. So if you are caught by any sort of crowd control or any sort of burst damage, that shield will be able to protect you, and you also take reduced damage as well. Onto the runes, you have two choices for your main rune. I like to go for Fleet Footwork because I feel like you don't really need the extra damage from First Strike, but a lot of people do like to go for First Strike as well to get that little bit of extra damage in, because with Kassadin, when you jump in with Rift Walk, you're normally being the first person that deals damage, and then all the damage after you deal damage with Rift Walk is going to deal true damage. However, Fleet Footwork does make you a little bit more passive during the laning phase, and it means that you can play a little more safer in the laning phase as well, because Fleet Footwork will be able to heal you up, also restore mana as well at the same time, so you can just use your abilities more often and stack up things like Archangel Staff more often in the early game. Bit more of a defensive route for Kassadin. I also like First Strike, but I think Fleet Footwork just works a little bit better for the laning phase and just allowing Kassadin to survive more often. For the main tree, we're going to go for inspiration. We go for Sweet Tooth to increase the honey fruit healing by 20% and also giving us a bit of extra gold. Again, if we do get poked, if we do take a lot of damage during the laning phase, we can use Sweet Tooth to go back to the honey fruit and heal up a little bit more so we can stay in lane longer. Transcendence for the ability haste, really important for Kassadin, means he can use his Rift Walk more often, means you can use his other abilities like his slow from his third ability, so very nice. And then Nimbus Cloak, so when we use our flash or ignite, we get that little bit of extra movement speed to help us move around the map. And then for the secondary rune, Bone Plating, if we jump in, if we do take damage, we're going to take less damage from the first 3 instances of damage. This on top of Crown of Shattered Queen, really good for protection for Kassadin, just in case you do go a little bit too far and you're going to be caught out by enemy champions. Yeah, summon spells as well, Flash and Ignite. These are 2 best summon spells that you can go for. You can go a little bit more passive and go for something like Barrier instead, but I feel like with the runes like Fleet Footwork, Sweet Tooth, and runes like that, there will be more enough protection that you don't need Barrier, so you can go for more kill potential and go for the Ignite instead. It's really good to try and combo when you're jumping in with Kassadin. That is everything for the build with Kassadin. Let's take a look at the abilities. First up for Kassadin, let's take a look at his passive, which is Void Stone. Kassadin gains a shield that absorbs magic damage for 1.5 seconds when casting an ability near a visible enemy champion. Now, even though this is a pretty simple and self-explanatory passive, you're actually going to be using this a lot during the laning phase. When you're against AP champions, say someone like Orianna or Syndra, for example, that has that huge range advantage over yourself because you are a melee champion, every single time they walk up and they try and use your abilities on you, make sure you use one of your abilities. Even if you're actually not going to hit it or use it at all, being able to use ability and gain that magic shield means that you're not going to take damage at all, and that shield is going to protect you instead. One of the best ways to use this is when you walk up and last hit minions with your second ability. When you walk up and use the second ability, you'll be able to get the magic shield to protect you, and also you get the extra range as well to be able to last hit minions. So you'll see here, all it is that when you use an ability, you gain that magic shield. It's that purple shield that extends your health bar ever so slightly. Doesn't have a long cooldown either, so you can use this quite often during the laning phase. Again, you can use this on your second ability, you can use this on this first ability, or even your ultimate as well. So every single time that you use an ability, you'll be able to gain that little bit of a magic shield to protect you from any ability power damage that might be coming your way. Onto Kassadin's first ability, we have Null Sphere. Again, a pretty simple ability. Fires an orb that deals magic damage and silences the first enemy hit for 1 second. Now, this is a skill shot in Wild Rift, which means it can be blocked by minions or anything else, you know, Baron, dragons, or anything like that. So we'll only hit the first enemy that you see. So for example, I have an example here. If I want to hit this Garen behind, I cannot actually use my first ability to go through the minion to get through to Garen. It's not a point and click like it is on PC League of Legends, which makes this ability actually pretty unreliable overall. Most of the time, you just want to use this ability when you're jumping in with your ultimate. You can use your first ability to silence enemy champions. That means that they can't use their flash or their dashes to be able to get away from you. And then you can use your third ability to slow them afterwards. But in terms of last hitting minions and also in terms of being able to poke enemy champions, it is pretty unreliable. I mostly use this ability as more of a disengage tool to be able to run away from enemy champions. But again, it does have quite a long range, so you can try and use this to poke enemy champions in the laning phase because of its incredible range. But again, because it is a skill shot and it's not just a simple point and click, you can't just walk up, focus the Garen and be like, okay, I want to poke the Garen and get a little bit of a magic shield. No, that doesn't really work like that, unfortunately. It can still get blocked by minions and also monsters. So make sure you keep this in mind when you play Kassadin so that you don't miss out on any damage. Kassadin's second ability is Netherblade. Netherblade enhances his next attack within 4 seconds to gain range, gain additional magic damage, and also restore 5% of missing mana. And if the attack kills the target, Neverblade's remaining cooldown is reduced by 50%. This is one of the best ways to last hit minions in the laning phase. Not only do you get the extra range, so you can get the extra auto attack range to last hit minions, but also being able to restore mana. And also when you last hit minions, it also reduces the cooldown of the ability by 50%, means that you can use this multiple times during the laning phase to be able to last hit minions, or even try and auto attack champions as well. Because we're using fleet footwork, we can use this to auto attack champions, to restore health, to restore mana, and also give us that little bit of extra movement speed. But you can see the auto attack distance here. You can see my auto attack range at the moment. My auto attack range is not really that high at all because I'm a melee champion. But when I use my second ability, you can see my range basically gets doubled. I would say even triple the range, to be fair. Like the amount of difference that you get from just auto attacking normally like this, you can just see my range here, to using my second ability then auto attacking, you're basically becoming a ranged champion every few seconds. So using this to not only last hit minions but also to get the magic shield from your passive as well is going to be very, very important. And one of the reasons why we go for our second ability RW at level 1 to be able to last hit minions, because we're not a strong champion at level 1. We have to wait until we get up to level 5. So using this to last hit minions and to also try and hit enemy champions is going to be very, very reliable, instead of just walking up into melee range and trying to auto attack like this. Because if I auto attack minions like this, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage. So use your second ability to last hit minions to be able to get to magic shield, to be able to get that restored mana, and also reduce the cooldown by 50% when you do last hit them minions. Now, another thing with Kassadin's second ability is that it can work as an auto attack reset. So what we can do is when we walk up and we try and auto attack a minion or even an enemy champion, we auto attack into second ability, and you can see that it works as an auto attack reset. So we auto attack second ability into auto attack again. This means you can get pretty much 2 auto attacks off in quick succession, since our second ability does work as an auto attack. You don't get the increased range because you'll be walking into melee range for your auto attack to start things off. But getting that quick auto attack reset might be really, really good against melee champions when playing in the mid lane, because you'll be able to auto attack reset with your second ability, and then you can use your other abilities to combo on top of that as well. On to Kassadin's third ability, we have Force Pulse, which has a basic version and also an enhanced version. The basic version, you just deal magic damage to enemies and slow them by 30% for a second. However, Force Pulse is enhanced after 6 other abilities are cast nearby, dealing 40% increased damage and slowing by 90% instead. Now, this does work on not only your own abilities, but it also works on enemy abilities as well. So if an enemy champion is playing someone like Syndra, they use their full burst combo on you, their first ability, their second ability, and also their third ability. This will count as 3 stacks towards your Force Pulse. So you can use your own abilities to stack this up, but you can also rely on enemy champions using their abilities as well. And this means that you can use this multiple times during a team fight. So keeping track of Force Pulse and making sure that you use the enhanced version is going to be very, very important. Now, the number of stacks that you can see for Force Pulse, if I use my first ability here, you can see there's a number that starts to come up just underneath the ability. This is how many stacks I have of the ability. I can still use this ability as a base value if I want to. It does have a pretty long cooldown though. I would recommend most of the time to actually wait and start stacking up your abilities first. You can see here, if I just use a few other abilities, when you get to 6 stacks, the ability will start to glow and it will turn red, and Kassadin starts to make this Darth Vader breathing noise as well. So you have plenty of indications to be able to know when your third ability is enhanced, and that means you'll be able to do increased damage and also slow by 90% as well, which is basically like a stun in the end. And this is really, really effective when you're looking at trying to use Kassadin's combos. You can either start off with the third ability to slow enemy champions and then look to jump on top of them with Rift Walk, or even if you jump on top of them with Rift Walk, it's really important to land your third ability to be able to slow enemy champions, and then it gives you an advantage to be able to easily land your first ability to silence them, so then you can jump on top of them again with Rift Walk. So a very, very strong ability. Again, you can use the base value of the ability. Bear in mind that the base value of the ability doesn't actually work as a stack. You can see here I still have 3 stacks, so I need to use my first ability, my second ability, and also my ultimate. The enhanced version, you can use this at range. You can see how much range this has as well. and you can also hit multiple enemy champions to be able to slow them, deal increased damage, but you can use the base version if you want to either last hit minions or poke enemy champions in the laning phase. And lastly, for Kassadin, we have his ultimate Rift Walk, which is basically a built-in flash for Kassadin. So Kassadin blinks to a target location, dealing magic damage to nearby enemies. The next Rift Walk costs within 12 seconds, deals increased damage, but it costs 200% additional mana, and you can stack this up to 3 times. As I mentioned, this is basically like a built-in flash for Kassadin, and once you reach level 5, Kassadin actually becomes a champion. He becomes a lot safer to play, he becomes a lot more mobile that you can roam around the map, and also he can start to use his ultimate for engages. Now you can use your ultimate over walls as well if you want to, because this is a blink effect. You can see I can use this over multiple walls. You can also use this over really huge walls as well that maybe it might not seem that you can get over. You can actually use this to get over quite a few walls. You can see here that even though my ultimate is not in the middle, every single time you can use the ultimate to get over walls and to get into team fights very quickly. Now you can see with my ultimate there, you can see the stacks that I have of the ultimate. I have 3 stacks at the moment. You can see at the moment, even though I have items like Rod of Ages, Serap's Embrace completely finished, the ultimate does cost a lot of mana. You can see that pretty much, I would say, a 5th or a 6th of my mana bar is gone just by using your ultimate. So you have to be very, very careful when you're stacking your ultimate. Even though this does do increased damage and it is very, very powerful, you can use this to maybe stack in a bush. Say for example, you're going towards a Baron fight, you can use your ultimate like in the bush. You can hide in the bush and just blink on the spot to start stacking your ultimate, and then when you're ready to fight, you can jump in, use your combo and do a lot of damage. But again, you have to make sure that you have enough mana to jump out again. Now this does do damage to enemy champions as well. You can see if I Rift Walk here, I can deal damage to enemy champions. I can also use my ultimate to dodge skill shots as well. For example, if a Yasuo tornado is coming towards me, I can use my ultimate to actually dodge skill shots. But also you could do a very, very cool combo, which might be a little bit difficult to start things off, but you can use your ultimate and your flash and it will deal damage. This combo is really effective when you're trying to get to them backline carries. So for example, with my ultimate here, I can't get in range of this target dummy. But if I use my ultimate and my flash, you can see here that I get the increased range, and also I'll still be able to deal damage. So if you can see an AD carry or a very high value target on the enemy team staying at the back line, if you use your ultimate and your flash to maybe get to that high value target, maybe over a wall or something, dealing that extra bit of damage is going to be so important, and that means you can use your full combo afterwards as well. So you can W flash, and then you can ulti flash, sorry, and then you can use your other abilities with your full combo to deal as much damage to that target and potentially even one-shot them as well. But the big thing is with your ultimate is maybe get 1 or 2 stacks during the early game, because you're not going to have that much mana. Because most of the time in the early game, you want to use your ultimate as a safety net. But once you have Serap's Embrace online, once you fully stack Rod of Ages, then you'll be able to get 3 stacks of your ultimate. And then when you get 3 stacks of your ultimate, you'll be able to jump into fights and do a lot of damage to the enemy team. Now to take a look at combos, there's not really any specific combos that you really need to look at for Kassadin. The biggest thing with Kassadin that I want you to know is that you need to make sure you use the right abilities at the right time. Whether it's your ultimate to jump in, whether it's more effective to use your ultimate to jump in because you need to close the gap, or you could do things like using your other abilities first, like your third ability to slow, or even your first ability to silence enemy champions before you jump in. Again, it's kind of being at the right place at the right time and knowing what abilities to use at the right time. But I'll show you a few combos anyway that you can go for, since your second ability can also work as kind of an auto attack reset. So when you're in a bush here, what you can do is you can use your first ability and your third ability first before you use your ultimate. To use your first ability, third ability, and then you use your ultimate, if I don't mess up the actual ultimate itself, because I got the dash and move direction. That's one thing you have to be careful of with your ultimate. Sometimes the dash and move direction can also screw with your ultimate, but also it can also help you out. So that's the setting that you can maybe bear in mind. But yeah, first ability, third ability, and then use your ultimate to jump on top of them to be able to deal as much damage as possible. This is really good if you're trying to deal quick burst damage to frontline tanks or any champions that are trying to face check a bush. Say you have a vision in this bush, the enemies don't have any vision, you'll be able to use your third ability, your first ability, and also jump in with your ultimate to deal as much damage as possible. However, the biggest combo to use is using your ultimate, then using your other abilities on top of that. So it'll be things like your ultimate into third ability, auto attack reset into your first ability. I did sneak in an auto attack in there as well. When you auto attack and use your second ability, it does work as an auto attack reset. So I'll do that again quickly. So ultimate into first ability, auto attack, W, and then Q. So that's your basic all-in combo, and pretty much the combo that you're going to be using throughout the whole game, because you use your ultimate to jump in, use your third ability to slow them first, again making sure that you have the empowered version of the ability, auto attack into second ability for the auto attack reset, and then your first ability to silence them. You can also use your first ability to silence instead if you feel like they're going to try and flash away. You can use like ultimate, first ability, and then third ability to slow them whilst they're silenced. That's also another good way of using your combos. Again, it kind of depends on the situation at the moment in time. You know, does the enemy have flash? Yes. Does he have a dash? Yes. Then maybe use your silence beforehand. Is he close enough that I can use my first ability and my third ability before my ultimate? And how many stacks do I have of my ultimate? And how much damage am I actually going to deal to enemy champions? So as I said, there's not really a lot of combos as such. It's more about, you know, when to use your abilities, because there's so many different ways in which you can use your abilities at many different times during the game. It's just knowing what is the best combo and what's the best method of using my abilities at that moment in time. Now let's take a look at the leveling order for Kassadin. As I've already mentioned, starting with your second ability is the best bet that you have with Kassadin. Sometimes you can start with your first ability, but as I mentioned already, it is very unreliable to last hit minions. If you've got a minion that's standing further back and you want to try and use your first ability to last hit that minion, it's going to be extremely difficult. So using your second ability to get that increased range to last hit minions will allow you to walk up and be able to get that little bit of extra gold and experience from last hitting minions. Then at level 2, you have a choice whether you go for your first ability or your third ability. Both of them are really, really good. I normally like to go for the first ability just so I can trade a bit better against enemy champions and maybe use this to last hit minions if I really, really need to. And then I go for my third ability, obviously making sure that all my abilities are available when possible. Now, the ability that you want to max first is actually going to be your third ability. Now, even though I mentioned already that most of the time you want to wait until you get the upgraded version of your third ability, the amount of extra damage that you get from your third ability is going to be huge. And remember, this is also increased by 40% as well. So not only is the base damage getting increased by a lot, and also the cooldown basically gets halved when we max this ability, we'll be able to also get the increased damage as well. This is going to be one of Kassadin's main damage outputs when we get later on into the game. Then we want to max our first ability to get that little bit of extra damage with our first ability, and then max our second ability, obviously making sure we upgrade our ultimate whenever possible. So even though we start with our second ability is kind of unreliable in terms of damage. Our third ability is going to give us the most damage, and then our first ability, and then our second ability. We just start off with our second ability to get that increased range to be able to last hit minions. But that's pretty much everything for the guide for Kassadin. We're going to go into a gameplay now, where I'm going to talk to you about all stages of the game with Kassadin and how you can carry with Kassadin in every single game. So I'll see you all in just a second. All right, on to the gameplay we go with Kassadin. This is one of the games where I actually tried out First Strike. I tried it out a few times. I tried First Strike, I tried Fleet Footwork. I think First Strike can work pretty well against melee matchups. This was one of the matchups that I was against that was melee, which was Akali. I think if you're against range matchups, it's really difficult to proc First Strike, and it's not really good to kind of go for this. So I would say if you're just starting off playing Kassadin, I would say the best thing to do is to go for Fleet Footwork. Really, really nice to be able to use Fleet Footwork just to get that increased range and get the little bit of healing over time. Now, Twitch tried a sneaky level 1 gank mid lane. Not too sure what he was expecting to kind of accomplish from that level 1 gank, but hey, you got to do what you got to do at times, I guess. -1 minion here, by the way. Yep, we don't talk about that -1 minion. But yeah, I think First Strike is pretty good in this matchup, because every single time that Akali walks forward to try and last hit minions, I'm just going to walk up, use my ability, and then get that magic shield. And that magic shield is pretty much going to block all the damage and all the combo damage that Akali might try and throw our way. So you can see here, we can get a really nice trade-off here with first strike, get a little bit of extra gold. We've got 31 gold at the moment, which is pretty good. But if this was a range matchup, then you would get like 0 gold. Like you wouldn't get any gold at all if this was a range matchup, which is why, in my opinion, I would say most of the time fleet footwork is better. But as I said, this is one of the games where I tried out first strike and it didn't really, you know, didn't really go too badly. And Carly made a bit of a mistake here, trying to jump in when I had my silence. I think the silence from Kassadin can really throw a lot of people off guard. Like there, Akali thought that she could jump in and do enough damage, but she was unfortunately in tower range. And because of my silence, it meant that she couldn't flash away straight away. She actually had to wait until she fully traveled and then wait a little bit longer and then can flash afterwards. So yeah, just had to make sure there that we timed everything perfect. And as you can see, we're going to go towards Rod of Ages as our first item before our boots upgrade. This is like one of the only champions and one of the only scenarios that I would actually rush a first item instead of boots, because boots are extremely powerful, but getting Rod of Ages as soon as possible is also very, very important, because you want to make sure that you get the stacks ASAP. Yeah, we're just being a little bit careful here. You can see that I'm still playing quite passive. I'm still playing quite behind the minions and playing on my side of the map, because I have to be really, really careful of like Akali jumping on top of me and doing a lot of damage. You can see here that Akali does quite a lot of damage to me, so I do have to be quite careful. Again, the magic shield helps us out though. I think that's the big thing. When you are against a magic damage matchup, it's really, really nice for Kassadin to get that magic shield. But if you're against an attack damage matchup, like say for example a Lucian is one of the worst matchups for Kassadin in the mid lane, because magic shield is completely pointless. Lucian has the range advantage and probably has one of the strongest early games in the entire game for mid lane. So what happens with Kassadin is that you just get completely bullied out basically, and you're not going to be able to do anything. So you can see here that I've got my ultimate stacked up to 3 times, which is not too bad, but I make a pretty huge mistake here. And I actually use my third ability again, and for some reason I'm walking up to take this one. I have no idea what I'm doing here, by the way. This is like a really, really bad misplay. Like I have no words. Like I don't know what I was thinking. But also it kind of shows the kind of struggles that you have in a way with your mana in the early game when you don't have Rod of Ages finished, when you're not able to get you know, Archangel Staff, Tear of the Goddess early on. When you are stacking up your ultimate in the early game, you use a lot of your mana. You can see that pretty much half of my mana went with one cast of my ultimate over the wall, which I didn't really expect. I didn't expect to lose that much. But yeah, it is extremely difficult. Again, I kind of make the mistake here as well that I don't have enough mana to use my ultimate again. So if I get ganked here, I might even be dead. So I do have to be, you do have to be very, very careful when you're using your mana to push the lane, especially your ultimate, and when you're using your ultimate to roam around. It's fine to do it, you know, later on when you have Archangel Staff fully stacked, when you have your Rod of Ages fully stacked, because you'll have enough mana to be able to jump around and do what you want. In the early stages, it's not possible. You just need to play as passive as possible. I'm not too sure what I was doing with that roam. It's a really, really bad roam in my opinion. I shouldn't have roamed at all. But yeah, it's still okay. You know, it still didn't put me that far behind. We're still able to push in mid lane, and you can see that we're still winning the trades as well against the Akali. I think once Kassadin reaches level 5, you can start trading a lot easier against some champions, especially champions like Akali that are pretty squishy. See, Akali jumps in again. I missed my silence there, unfortunately. I think if I hit my silence, I probably killed the Akali. It's really annoying sometimes that the silence gets blocked by minions. You can see there that because it got blocked by a minion, I wasn't able to finish off the Akali. You can see that she survives on 1 HP. So a really unfortunate situation there, because if the minion wasn't there and I landed my first ability, then the Akali was probably dead. So another way in which your first ability can be pretty unreliable. You do have to be extremely careful when you're using your first ability. I'm going to try and help the Teemo here and try and do a lot of damage, but I think I make a mistake here as well. Yeah, jumping in there on such low HP was not the best idea, so I had to use my flash away as well. So this is the thing, right? Like I'm not saying I'm the best at Kassadin. You know, I know every champion to a certain level, right? I know every champion that I can release these sort of guides and do these sort of guides, like sort of beginner guides in a way. I'm nowhere near like a Kassadin expert. Like I'm not gonna, you know, sit here and say to you all that, oh, I know I'm the best player on the server at Kassadin. I know how to play Kassadin at a decent level. I know what the champion does, and I know the limits of the champion at times, until I make mistakes like that. But it kind of happens sometimes when you don't play a champion for a long time. Because I played him on PC League a little bit, but I didn't really play him a lot when it was when he came out on Wild Rift. So trying to get the Herald here, which is going to be a little bit difficult. I tried to stack my ultimate there to try and do as much damage to the Zed as possible. You can see here that I actually finish off the Zed as well. That was one of the ways in which I used my ultimate extremely well. I was able to jump over the wall, but then I get ultied by Darius, unfortunately. So wasn't able to get much out of that. But that was a way in which stacking my ultimate was actually really, really effective and actually really, really nice. Because I was able to stack it, do a little damage to the bit of damage to the Rift Herald, and then do damage to the well, then still have enough mana to jump away. Unfortunately, Darius had flash. If Darius didn't have flash, I probably would have survived there as well. Yeah, one of the ways in which you can stack your ultimate and do a lot of damage. I wouldn't really recommend doing what I'm doing now. I did this a few times, but I don't think it's the best idea to do. You could probably do it twice, actually. Actually, I think doing it twice is not that bad. Looking at my mana right now, stacking up your ultimate 2 times to get back to lane quicker, it's probably not that bad. So use a little bit of mana, but not too much mana, to be fair. I think if you use it 3 times, then that's when it gets a little bit too much. But we're at a point in the game now where I've got Rod of Ages stacking. I've got my tier stacking at the bottom as well. You can see there. So you still want to use your abilities to try and stack as much as possible. Yeah, you can see here that this is where my roams start to come in. And try and roam here and do a little bit of damage. I was going to be able to do enough, unfortunately, though. I do silence the Zed. I wonder if that actually got a kill in the end. I think the silence onto Zed actually got a kill, which is quite nice. You can see here, this is where like stacking your ultimate can be really, really effective. Not too sure what the Akali's thinking here, but we get another kill onto the Akali as well. Silence actually works out pretty well if you don't have, you know, any minions or anything blocking your way. If you do, it can be extremely difficult to try and combo and do enough damage. That's why most of the time I prefer to start the combo with the ultimate and then the third ability, because it's just a lot more reliable, and also it can do more damage, especially if you have the upgraded version. Sometimes trying to hit your first ability can be a little bit difficult. My misfortune stole my cannon minion. I'm not too sure why misfortune stole the cannon minion, but hey, it's fine. It's all good. Yeah, like here, I wouldn't really recommend stacking your ultimate. You know, what I'm doing here, using ultimate, you see how much mana I'm using already. Like, I don't have my tier fully stacked. I need to be extremely careful here. I've used like half of my mana already. I think it's because I thought a fight was happening in mid lane, but it wasn't in the end. So I basically just used half of my mana for no reason at all, which is really, really bad. You know, I don't think you ever want to do anything like that, but hey. You live and you learn, as they say. You live and you learn to make sure that you understand your mistakes. And this is also why I picked this gameplay as well. This is not like the most stylish gameplay and not the best gameplay, but it's still a gameplay that shows you like ways in which I would improve my gameplay with Kassadin, and gameplays that I'll be able to, you know, look back on and be like, oh, I can do this better. I can do this better. Because showing you gameplay where I go like 20-0 is, you're probably not going to learn a lot from it, right? It's a lot better to actually look at the mistakes that I made and, you know, think about what I would do differently, and also tell you what I would do differently as well, so that you can understand. Because so if you make the same mistakes, then you can understand what to do. You know, things like this, like jumping in thinking that I can one-shot the Lulu. Nope. I think this is what you'd call limit testing most of the time. There's limit testing, but then there's completely inting like I just did there, unfortunately. But I think jumping in for Lulu wasn't too bad of an idea if there wasn't everyone else there. I probably just didn't realize that there were other people around there at the moment in time. But trying to jump in one shot in a Lulu is probably not too bad, but it's a little bit difficult at the same time. We're getting quite a few assists this game, but not that many kills. But again, we're still scaling. Like, we don't have Archangels fully stacked yet. We're still scaling. We're still going to be able to do a lot later on, which is going to be, you know, really, really nice. Even though we did make a few mistakes this game, we did also make some really, really nice plays, which is pretty good. I'm just taking the jungle camps at the moment because there's nothing really else left to do on the map. So the best thing to do is just try and take jungle camps. Yeah, as you can see, not really nothing. I could have really saved the misfortune maybe, but I doubt it. This is one cool thing about Kassadin as well, is that sometimes you can play a little bit over aggressive with Kassadin, but sometimes a little bit difficult at the same time, because if you do jump in, and if you, the big thing is that, you know, using your ultimate and knowing when to use your ultimate and when not to use your ultimate. Because if you use your ultimate to jump in, you have no way of getting back out unless you have flash. If you don't have flash and you jump in, you're in. Like, you're in the whole time, and you're not going to be able to do anything else at all. So making sure that you use your ultimate at the right time and knowing when to jump in is going to be the difference maker for you for sure. But it will take some time. Like, you won't get it on the first try. Hey, you probably won't even get it on the second try. It will take a few times with Kassadin to be able to know the limits and when to jump in and everything as well. This is one of the ways in which you can, you know, use ultimate to stack into a bush. I think this moment's coming up now. Yeah, you can see here that I have my third ability. You can see the ultimate cooldown there, and I have my ultimate stacking in. Silence, boom, one shot. Absolutely disgusting. I do unfortunately die for this. I nearly outplayed the Zed, but I do unfortunately die for it. But you can see the damage potential there, that as soon as Swain catches out the Twitch, one shot. Completely one shot. But you do have to be wary of that bar that's going down on your ultimate, because that bar that's going down, that circle that's going down on your ultimate, when it goes down to 0, then you lose all your stacks of your ultimate. So that's why I say sometimes it's very, very good to actually stack your ultimate in the bush, because if you have 3 stacks and a team fight's about to happen, then you want to keep them 3 stacks, which, hey, is a little bit difficult early on because you don't have the mana. But now that I have Rod of Ages fully stacked, I have Sarah's Embrace. Now also going to get TP to try and TP onto the Teemo here to try and make a difference with the Baron. I think they actually jump off the Baron though, yeah. Maybe they got a little bit scared from my TP, but they actually completely jump off the Baron, which is pretty nice for me, to be fair. I'm doing a little bit of beta-roo here. Unfortunately, I think Teemo's not going to die just yet. You can see that I'm trying to, like, look for the Akali here. And as soon as I see the Akali, I jump on her. Miss everything, no, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, the Teemo died. This Darius is a bit of a problem. A little bit of a problem. But you can see, I'm limit testing. We jump in onto the Akali. I don't ignite her. I don't know why I didn't ignite her. I should have ignited her straight away, but I didn't ignite her for some reason. But it still worked out anyway. If I just ignited the Akali, she would have been dead. Again, it's like, I feel like with Kassadin, you don't really do damage until 3 items. Like, you need to get Death Cap. If you don't get Death Cap, then you just do no damage with Rod of Ages and Sarah's Embrace. Like, you have a lot of mana, but your damage output is just, it's just not there, unfortunately. And you can see, you know, why in this game. And you can see that I'm really having some damage problems because I don't have Death Cap. You know, I one-shotted the Twitch to one time. That was pretty good. Other than that, I haven't really done too much to be able to, you know, one-shot everyone and kind of show the potential, I guess, of Kassadin. Again, I think this is more to do, you know, to look at the mistakes and look at the kind of limit testing and everything that you want to do with Kassadin. So yeah, I'm not too sure why I bought stasis there. I mean, I probably just wanted the protection, but I kind of wasted a little bit of gold buying TP. Actually, I wouldn't say it was a waste of gold buying TP, because I think it was actually really nice to get TP there. You see here that in this fight, I used my third ability upgraded 2 times during that fight, because it works with my allies' abilities, the enemy's abilities, and also my abilities. So it's extremely good. I see I have Death Cap completed now, so I kind of want to go back to base here. Yeah, I'm pinging them to go back. There's no real point pushing mid lane and bot lane right now. I want to try and push out this Baron lane. If I can push out this Baron lane, then it's going to be really, really nice. Then we can try and get all 3 inhibitors. That's a big thing, because at the moment you can see my team's like in bot lane, which they're like, I mean, yes, you can try and end the game here, but it's so difficult to try and end the game if the enemies kind of know what they're doing. It's so much better here to actually back off and try and get the 3rd inhibitor. Let bot and mid wave push in, and then take the 3rd inhibitor. Because the mid lane inhibitor's already gone, the bot lane inhibitor's already gone, so the only thing you're really looking for is a Nexus. I don't think that we would have ended the game there if I was there. I think it would have been a lot better for us to push the Baron lane, the top lane, and try and play towards Baron instead. Because we could, you know, that whole time that my team were in the base trying to end the game, we could have taken Baron and then Dragon as well. It could have been really, really nice, but it still worked out in the end. You can see here, I'm going to jump onto the Akali. Actually starting to do a little bit of damage now, which is quite nice. Sometimes I felt like I did no damage at all this game, but now I'm starting to do a little bit of damage. Flash, ulti. Nice little solo kill there onto Akali. And I think that finishes off the game here. This is just absurd, by the way. I did not think that... Yeah. I had stasis, and I didn't think Zed would one-shot me that quickly. I think it's because Zed had Collector. So he just one-shot me so quickly that I wasn't even able to react and use stasis. Because I was trying to use my abilities instead. So a bit of a misplay there, but we're going to end the game anyway. 6-5-11. Again, not a crazy high-scoring game that you're probably expecting of seeing of Kassadin, but hopefully this gameplay kind of shows that even if you know how to play the champion, you have to learn the limits as well at the same time. You know, there were a couple of times this game that I jumped in, I used my ultimate, and it was completely at the wrong time of using the ultimate. And sometimes there's times where, hey, I can look to jump in, I can look to do a lot of damage. And you have to kind of, you know, work towards them limits and understand them limits. I still did 22,000 damage in the end, which is the lowest on the team compared to everyone else. But 22 damage is still, you know, not too bad considering it's a pretty low, you know, pretty low timed game, 16 minutes. I guess I could have done a little bit more damage in the end. But yeah, Zed had Collector in the end. That's why I was so surprised that I got one shot. But overall, we still did pretty well in the mid lane. Again, this is a game we tried first strike, but I think Fleet Foot works a little bit better. But you can see how, you know, when you're playing the laning phase, you're trying to use your magic shield to your advantage, and that kind of really where it comes in handy. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed this guide for Kassadin. Make sure you stay tuned for the next one. And until next time, I'll see you all in the next water video. Peace.